Oh, hey there, gang. So we were talking about investing in your tools and how some effects don't play well together. And it brought me back to that. I had a couple of boards that totally didn't work. And I'm going to flash them on the screen now. The first one was the first iteration of screwing up the board that I had put together for live gigs that actually did work. And I was like, oh, I can make this better. And it didn't matter, as you can see, how many boutique things I threw on there. They weren't talking to each other. It wasn't working for me. And a lot of time, you can instantly plug in and start playing and go, oh yeah, I don't like the sound of this. My instrument isn't responding the way I want to. It's not the timbre I expect or I've come to know. That's what happened on the first one. So I changed it up, and this is the second one. I thought, let me change it up a little bit. I always have a filter. I always have a ring mod. I always have this. I always have that. Doesn't work. They didn't work. I was really unhappy. It started again with the bass sound of my instrument. And what's funny about that, and this is something to contemplate, is I've used the Manatone mini red snapper for years and years and years. I always get a great bass tone out of it. Not on that board, not on the second board, but I did get a great sound out of it on the board that I took apart to make those two. I don't know. This is part of the process. And this is what you have to consider. We live and learn. And just because stuff is fancy, new, boutique, trendy, loved by many, doesn't mean it's going to work for you. So those two boards are out. I ripped them apart and put together a better board, a board that sort of worked. But even that one wasn't perfect. My bass sound wasn't exactly how I wanted it, but it did have some redeeming qualities. And I'm going to talk about that later if I remember, hopefully, because I've revamped that board a little bit. I think I took a picture, which I can put up now if I have it. And what I'm going to do with that board is I'm going to use it for overdubs, for textural, granular, sort of non-linear overdubs, stuff that would be layered things that would sound great on top of my bass, which then brings me to today's board. Today's board is beautiful. It's beautiful. It just as soon as I plug in, that's my sound. Spot on, straight off. And I still get the ambient qualities I want. I still get the cinematic things I want. I still get the textural sounds that I am shooting for. I get the movement that I wish for. And I get all my favorites, such as I always have a ring mod. I always have a filter. There's a kind of a particular relationship between ring mods and filters when you dial in your ring mod right, and it usually works better with analog ring mods, although I have had so much fantastic success with the Alexander Syntax era, the original single unit, which is on one of the other boards. It's been on every board I've used for, I don't know, since it came out, and on countless numbers of records and recordings, because I've programmed it. I've got presets. I can use an expression pedal to get frequency sweep and other things out of it. Unbelievable pedal. It's not on here. But The reason I bring it up is because that pedal in combination with a filter has been a big part of my sound for years. So I always have a ring mod. I always have a filter or something that can trigger the ring. There's a relationship where you get the filter in a certain position and it makes the ring mod squeal depending on how you have it set. And I just freaking love that sound, and I can only get it by having a filter and a ring mod in conjunction with each other. So on this board, the board I'm now using for my bass, legato, like long loping line, ambient, cinematic lap steel, if you will, I'm using the Hampstead Red Wing modulator. They have a way, it's all analog, and there's a certain setting, because really, a lot of very, very good modulation pedals, a ring mod is just a super fast, to break it down at its basic. Let's not go too deep here. But if you set it really fast with certain depth and rate and whatever and frequency, it'll function as a ring mod. And this one, because it's analog, sounds amazing. So I'm using the Hampstead Red Wing as an analog ring modulator. I've set it exactly the way I want. However, it can also do many, 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 many other modulation things, which is also why it's on the board. There's also a hold function in it. And if you have a momentary switch, which I've got on this board, which you'll see here on the screen, the momentary switch basically feeds back in that position. Yes, modulated feedback hold of wherever you have it set to. That's worth it to me. That's super cool. Now, the rest of the board is all speaking to each other. One of the new additions is the Tamco distorter. That's a boost drive on one side and a fuzz on the other side. If I can get all three of those things in one pedal, I'm down. It sounds gorgeous and hi-fi. They nailed this. So I'm super excited about that. The Prismatic Wall by Electronic Audio Experiments. I've got my presets. For lap steel, you get that ringing, overtony, resonating sort of sound, but with pitches blended in as well. Unbelievable. The rest, the Dweller. The Old Blood Noise Dweller has to be the most underrated pedal of all time. It's indispensable. Whenever I put it on a board, I'm like, oh, yeah, that, with an expression pedal, off the charts. Unbelievable. The Electronic Audio Experiments Sending V2 with the latest firmware. Here's the weird thing about that. That's like everybody, it's a super fine, high-end analog delay in the realm of the Memory Man, right? The deluxe Memory Man. Yeah, it does that. Might even do it better, I think. But it's so much more. It's got an effects loop. Awesome. But even better than that, I use it as a crazy pitchy modulation pedal, glitchy, warbly. I mean, I've got 2 presets that do that, but with an expression pedal, it goes even further. And I have it set for, there was the Akai Head Rush, the first edition. If you turn the feedback all the way up, it didn't like oscillate fully, but you got a ringy oscillation into it. And if you set the time really low and put the feedback really up and tweaked a few other aspects of it, it was like kind of ringing, feeding back into itself with this, like, it's hard to describe, but it's a sound I really miss. But that thing was like this big, and who has room for it on their board? I programmed that into the sending. So one of my sending V2 presets is that, and I'm going to start with it. And then the Repurposing from Polar Bear Effects, unbelievable, glitchy, sort of, I don't even know. It's a lo-fi delay based on the PT2399 chip, which, by the way, I'm a big fan of a lot of the delays made with that chip. And I like the lo-fi-ness of those delays. This one goes even further. It has a failure knob that introduces stuttering and glitching. Awesome. And then another new acquisition is the Astronomy Domini. I'm a huge Sid Barrett fan of Blue Colander pedals. And that is a wave folder reverb. So a distorted reverb utilizing wave folding. And that sounds different from every other distorted reverb I've tried. This one nails it. That's going into the Dabo. I will be turning the Dabo on and off and changing presets again as I go, because there's no way to change presets with a switcher. I have a switcher for the sending V2. I have to have this on a table so that I can do it manually. And since I already have the Planetarium 3, which, if you don't know, is a reverb modulation delay unit, but it also has a built-in compressor, and they all kind of work and intertwine together, and it's highly sensitive to each other within that architecture, within that universe, the Planetarium universe. And I probably won't be using the chorus delay reverb on this performance, but I will have the compressor set as an expander at the end of the chain, which makes everything bloom up. Yeah, that's a lot to talk about, but I don't know what I'm going to do. Got two cameras going, got my feet, got you right here. Let's just let it rip. But the real deal here is finding combinations that work. And to put a period on this little chat before this performance, the other board that wasn't working, that I have now tweaked, works for a specific purpose, and I've decided I know what I'm going to do with that. So I'm going to make some recordings. I don't know if it's going to be an album. It might be 3 or 4 things, but if they're long, that could be an album. I will put it up for free at my Bandcamp. When I do that, I will start on lap steel, do 3 or 4 ambient sort of textural cinematic lap steel performances. Then I will do something that I haven't done yet. I made a record called The Problem with Livia, an all-acoustic 8-string Weissenborn record that 577 Records put out a few years ago. You can find it on my Bandcamp as well. But I have an 8-string dobro that's freaking cool as heck, right? It's a fantastic instrument by Goldtone, and I haven't made a record with that yet. But I did recently put in an electric pickup. So it's got an acoustic pickup, it's got an electric pickup. So after I do 3 or 4 performances on this, I don't know if this will be included in that, but it could if I'm happy with it. I will then do overdubs with the dobro, which I've never done before, with that other board that wasn't working. And it'll just be for textural, kind of like glitchy, granular stuff on top. I will mic the dobro, so we'll have the acoustic properties, but I will plug the awesome pickup that was just installed in it, the electric pickup, which is a humbucker, into that other board and do the overdubs that way, and I'll film everything. All right? All right. Okay, I know, a lot, but these are the things that we all consider, or should, before we do our craft. So let me see what I come up with, all right? All right. And there you have it. My madness in a nutshell. I rather liked that. I hope you did too. And I'll do a few more, but the next few will probably be in conjunction with the dobro and the other board, kind of making a little cinematic lap record, whether it's lap steel or dobro together. So I hope you dig that. If you have any questions about anything, effects, production, techniques, what have you, please reach out. Happy to help. Thanks for watching.